is here. Tom is here. We are ready to roll. I said at the right before the holidays that one of the things we were going to do was make sure Redemption Thursday was year-round. Year-round. So it is now, and that means it gets odd because I'll start betting hockey and college basketball, and guess what today? That's right. That's right, Matthew. Get your lineups in. The century gets started, the return of the PGA Tour. We've been known. We've been known. Bet your mortgage on Eric Cole, everybody, quickly. I actually do like Eric Cole, but don't bet your mortgage on Eric Cole. Anyhow, there's plenty to dive into, although the NFL slate is bizarre, and you don't know what to do. You got to figure out who's playing, who's not playing. Feels like a bowl game. That's like a bowl game. Who's playing, who's not playing, who the hell knows? Tommy, how are you, baby?
Man, I'm good. I'm muscling up for Week 18 in my fantasy league. I know that everybody wants to hear about that.
Are you still in the league? What is going on with that?
This is the one that redrafts in the playoffs.
So
you hit the waiver wire hard this week because a lot of teams do what Florida State did, but nobody complains about that, do they? Nobody complains about opting out when you've clinched a division or you've got yourself secured one way or the other.
Well, they shouldn't complain about that. I mean, because their slot it's sealed. It's it. So they're going to play it out in the playoffs, Tom.
But you know what? You look in your teammates' eyes and you don't want to let them down.
Oh, man. Listen, I'm hearing good news on a guy. Not so much good news on another guy. I'm joining you on a Thursday a little concerned. I went from really feeling good to really getting concerned here. I've got issues with this staff and their recruitment, and I've always been able to kind of assuage my concerns regarding recruiting with this staff by their ability to dominate. I mean, dominate the portal. But they're not dominating the portal. And we're not getting this uptick in great news that I'm anticipating on a regular basis. Like hours go by and you go, all right, are we going to hear something here? It is disconcerting. Doesn't mean it's going to end that way. Just has me slightly concerned. You know I'm concerned, Tom, when I'm texting you at 6 o'clock in the morning over a cup of Joe about the 9 players that Alabama had enter the portal. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, I don't mind if I do. That one. I better start hearing that. And I'm kind of maybe hearing one.
So let me guess. You're hearing bad things about the Purdue defensive end because he was supposed to be here today and he's not.
That is correct. Hey, man, that's a problem.
Maybe you feel like there's a little something coming Florida State's way in a few days.
That I feel very good about. That is exactly right. There is a little something coming Florida State's way. That's fine. I'm just going to be brutally honest. I've been this way talking about this for a while. I don't care about the receiver or running back or defensive back that we get. It doesn't move the needle. I don't care. Now, I say that's kind of true. It's a half-truth. I mean, if it's an elite player who's going to be maybe a game-changing player at defensive back or running back or something like that. You know, like last year when we found out Keon Coleman was a possibility, I got very excited because I knew who Keon Coleman was and I'd seen what he'd done without really anything at quarterback at Michigan State. And I'm like, man, if he comes here with Jordan Travis and you put him on the opposite side of Johnny Wilson, there's going to be something to celebrate. Okay, now all of a sudden we become a real problem for defenses. So you could see the path to that being an immediate impact. And I did get excited when I found out he was interested. But for the most part, unless it's something like that, no, man. Talk to me about offensive and defensive lines and linebackers. Linebackers. Now, the game's changed a lot. It's no longer the sort of put a guy that can go sideline to sideline right there in the middle of the defense, and you've got a game. You know, that's not the way it is anymore. You've got to be able to cover. You got to be able to cover. The game's changed. And now, so let's just, I know it's changed some, but you still got to have some of these guys, and we just don't right now. So it's a little frustrating. It is a little frustrating. We'll see. We'll see what's going to happen.
It should be frustrating because if you're not going to bring in a haul in your recruiting class, then the assumption, not the hope, but the assumption is that you're going to do what you've done the last couple of years, which is do a lot of heavy lifting in the portal. And
yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yes.
And for right now, that assumption is not holding true and holding firm. Now, there's about a week left. Somebody asked in the chat on Warchant TV before the show started, when's the last day of ad drop? Like when is the last day? It's a week from now. It's January 11th, but that's the last day that you can be admitted without a dean's permission. And I'm sure that there'd be several deans at this university who would give ample permission for young men who could help us win football games arrive on campus on the 15th or the 20th.
Yeah.
But you're working with about a week. That's the true time frame here. You got about a week.
Well, let's just say it. That whole thing, we talked about this already. The fact that there was, it cast a pall, what happened with the postseason. I'm starting from the snub to the end. And you knew some of it. I mean, these are all different discussions and different talking points, but you knew that some of it had an adverse effect. And we'd have to wait and see, just how significant it is. But I've also asked the question about, having to self-scout and look in the mirror and kind of figure out some things about moving forward and what we were wondering about and what would Mike do and which coaches were going to stay on the staff, if there would be changes or not, all those things. And, when you look at it that way, you're waiting for news. A lot of people early on were waiting for some sort of significant news. And the first thing that happened was we found out that we got Marvin Jones Jr. And I got really excited. We were like, okay, well, that's here. This is the start of what might be several high points in the portal where you start saying, got this guy, and this guy. Here we go. You can see the path to replenishing some of the holes on the roster. But then it kind of came to a screeching halt. Not kind of, it did. It came to a screeching halt. And then you thought, all right, well, that's okay. They still have time, and they do. But it's kind of crickets. Feels a little crickety. And that has me concerned about a hangover, a leftover effect from all that happened from the end of the season to right now.
Yeah, one of the key places to look would be at defensive end specifically, because Edmond put his name in the transfer portal on the way out. Now, I don't know if he's officially in there or not, but I mean, that seems like you have an export market addition right there. On the defensive interior side of things, if you retain your players, you're in a pretty good place right here, right now. So if you get Farmer back and Jackson back, let's say Malcolm Ray sticks around. Okay, that's a good 1, 2, 3 with Daniel Lyons, maybe Dennis Briggs gets another year, second year of KJ Sampson. Like, that's not bad. I'm not saying that that's world beater level like we were this past season, but that you can work with that. But if what you're working with a defensive end is Patrick Payton, Marvin Jones Jr., Byron Turner, Jaden Jones, Lamont Green, no, there's got to be more work done there at defensive end. They know that. The coaching staff knows that. So they'll bring in more kids and more candidates. But we were thinking that maybe this Purdue thing could be something close to a slam dunk. And unfortunately, it looks like you might not get that Jared Verse type impact player out of the portal like we've gotten the last two times we really had to have a guy like that.
Well, everybody knows that at some point that well will run dry. You can't live and die by the portal. You can use it as a supplement to really good recruiting and building. And so we have, and we've done a really good job with that. I suspect they still will. I'm not mashing the panic button right now, but I am concerned. The concerns are growing is a better way of kind of gauging where we're at right now. It seems it's a little frustrating. Some things we thought would already have happened have not happened. So the timeline isn't exactly where I'd like it to be. Now, again, listen, it's not, it's funny because you think you'd have the news to be able to come on and talk about up to this point. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I can talk about the NFL. I can talk about college football. I can talk about a lot of different things we do anyhow on this show. But as it pertains to those concerns that we laid bare before the bowl game, and then of course after, you do hope to see some movement in that area, and that includes on this coaching staff. And we're seeing none of that right now. So I think there is this fear. I know Corey has it when we talk on headlines that the program will take a huge step back next year, right? And if that's in the back of your mind, that the program's going to take a huge step back and you don't see any action, you don't see any movement, you start getting very concerned. But I'm always kind of reminding myself, and thus you guys, everybody's roster is fair game. And we're at a place, and it's not just one, by the way. It's not just one stretch where you can look into the portal. There's another round of this. There's a whole nother round of portal. Now, again, you don't want to miss out on the prized possessions of the portal and the best players if they go somewhere else. But all is not lost if it doesn't work out the way you want. There are a lot of names that aren't in the portal currently that may end up that way. And everybody's trying to roster tamper with everybody else's roster. It is a grand free-for-all.
And I hope we are leading the charge of those tampering with other rosters.
It would be a dereliction of duty if we weren't.
The problem is, you would think, and this is where perhaps there is even more of a legacy, like you're hinting at, of the snub. But you would think a 13-0 season would see you in a position of turning kids away and in a position of absolute power.
Well, that was the conversation, Tom. It really was.
Well, it's between that and your reputation in the portal. So, like, your badasses in the portal, you get kids paid, you develop them from that level at 20, 21 years old, and you elevate them, and then you win 19 in a row. Like, okay, that's a great 1-2 punch to bring into a living room or to have a kid come on campus and talk about. But it feels more like we went 10-2 and maybe won the ACC championship game. Just the feeling. Now, that's intangible, and it can change with a couple of yeses. And it's not like they're completely empty-handed. We just talked yesterday about how DJU helps stabilize things, certainly on offense, if you're looking for transfer of power among the quarterbacks over the next couple of years. That's all well and good. But it feels like we're doing just okay. And, man, you thought 13-0 at that moment, that night in Charlotte, it was the beginning of this exponential rise in all ranks, recruiting, transfer portal, et cetera.
Yeah, I think because uncharacteristically we have started as slow as we have, there are a lot of people very concerned, and rightfully so, because of the hangover we're describing. And I thought, like you just described, that Florida State would be at a place of pushing people away. I think the exhibition is obvious to other people, to us, to those that know what that was, but maybe not to these kids. And you were worried about that. You were worried about the impact of something like that. We all were. And now you don't know that that's the reason, but it kind of feels like it had an impact. And we'll wait and see now what happens from here. I was hoping that the kind of texts and exchanges that we would get behind the scenes and using sources would be that of, oh man, they've got their choice of this linebacker, this wide receiver, this lineman, this defensive tackle. And that's really not what's happening. That's not what's happening. They still have prospects. They still have guys. They have people they're excited about, and they're not eliminated from getting. It's just not – we're not having to push people away. That's what we're saying here. We're not having to push people away. Now we're getting concerned because what the opposite of that is that you're settling.
Yeah,
the opposite of pushing people away is, well, I'm going to have to settle for some guys here.
I don't want to lose sight of what they've done. Like, this is the hard part of these conversations because they operate in different rooms in a building almost. Like, in the one room, you're like 13-0. My God, ACC champions this quick? Well done. And then you walk into the next room and you're saying, what good is 13-0 if we're not capitalizing on 13-0? Except in the college football hierarchy, if you're talking about a staff, these are the same people. They've got two roles. One is to develop and put together game plans and execute on Saturdays. And then the other is to go into the living room and close. It's not a critical mass, which, I'm hearing myself, and this is probably where you were just a few minutes ago. It's not panic time. It's just, guys, we're depending on the portal. So you got to make the portal count.
Yeah, man. And I worry about it. I just worry because that never seemed like something you could do year over year over year. And we have been able to do it. But I also think that was born from a different place. We were able to do it because we had a lot of slots to fill. We were still climbing, and he was rapidly getting this program turned around. And you could just go unbridled into the portal and be like, get this guy, take a chance on this guy. Our roster is so bad. The talent floor was so low. You really could just throw it out there. And you're not in that same place anymore. And you're also dealing with a different set of expectations on the heels of a 13-0 season. And you're trying to sustain excellence. You don't want to go back. And you feel like maybe there's a couple of things at play that would make that happen. Now, I have said, just by virtue of what they were losing, like start with Jordan Travis, start with the quarterback. that had so many reps and so much time in this system and was it turned into a very good leader because of that, right? He was a guy that everybody could turn to. So when you lose a guy like that at the most important position on the field, you're going to take a step back. You're not going to find another Jordan Travis out there that's just going to come right in and take the reins and understand the offense to the extent that he did and have that connection with his teammates. You're not going to find it. And DJ could come in and be a great bridge. Hopefully he will. If you get the best version of him, he's good on game day. But it's not the same as Jordan Travis. It's just not. So when you do that and you go through several of the positions, whether it's Johnny Wilson or it's Keon Coleman or whomever you want to look at in that situation, Jared Verse, obviously, you realize that, okay, well, the expectations will have to be tempered a little bit, but you don't want it to be a 13-0 followed by a 7-5. So you're just somewhere in there trying to figure out, well, how do we make this another run within the conference championship? Like, do we get back to the ACC? You have Clemson at home next year.
Yeah, and that conference schedule isn't so bad either. I mean, if you look at the destinations of the games, the sequencing will be determined. But, I mean, I think it's going to be a fairly favorable schedule, 1 through 12, to get back to the ACC championship game, which is this year with a 12-team playoff, it changes the math. Like, if this was another 14 playoff year, I'd say, man, that's out. That's a bridge too far, but you can win the conference. Like, that would be my expectation right now. Now it changes because if you win the conference, the playoff is here. I think the trepidation in my voice, I know where it comes from. It is the replenishment. It is the reminder of the Orange Bowl. It is the lesson from the Orange Bowl that, hey, man, beyond this next year of retention and work that you do in the portal, I don't know where the reinforcements are coming up front in the trenches. Like, you've got a few answers on offensive line and defensive line, but it's not like you've got a bevy of answers and then you fortified the ranks the proper way. Like, last year, I think we said you might need one more year of the portal. You're going to need another year of the portal next year. No matter what happens this year, for that defensive front, you're going to have to hit the portal super hard because I don't think you've got 4 options that are ready to replace Patrick Payton, Darrell Jackson, Josh Farmer. Let's say Jones has a great year. All right, you retain him. So best case, you got to replace 3 starters next year. I don't know that those are internal options that are going to rise to the place of starter from our 22 or 23 recruiting classes. In fact, I assume that that's probably not going to be the case.
Go out and solve some of your problems by bringing in an offensive lineman like Terrence Ferguson from Alabama, who declared to go into the portal. You have a center from Alabama who's in the portal as well and started every game last year. And I know he was responsible for a couple bad snaps against Michigan. I don't care about that. He's played for 4 years at Alabama. He could probably help you out here. We're always lamenting the fact that we don't have a center or backup center, or whatever it might be, but we don't have another guy that you feel really good about. Well, that guy would probably not only start for you, but if he didn't, he would be a worthy backup at this point. So there are plenty of other guys, right, that you could look at and say, they're out there right now. We should be making inroads with those guys. It doesn't feel like we are. The Purdue kid is off the board now. He's at Texas A&M. He's left us. And so, the frustration continues to mount. And that one bothers you because the initial reports were that kid was excited about visiting Tallahassee. I understand A&M is right by where he grew up. Wanted to stay close to home. Perhaps that's the reason. But he was excited about Florida State. And why wouldn't you be if you were a defensive end and you had an opportunity to go visit Florida State, given what Florida State's done with the last 3 defensive ends that they've brought in? Well, several of the defensive ends they brought in. Gilbert Edmond is now in the portal, by the way. Good. Thank goodness that spot clears up. He was terrible. It's the Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
I'm Dana Brooks.
And I'm Jimmy Basic.
Traffic cameras are everywhere, providing valuable evidence if you've been in an accident.
But if you can't access that evidence, it could just be your word against theirs.
Basic Brooks is partnered with Roadproof to have access to all their traffic camera footage. If you've been hurt in an accident, give us a call and we'll find out if the proof you need is out there.
Let us find your video evidence so you can come back stronger. Call us now at 850-777-7777.
Matt, we've been on the front lines of the Republican Revolution for the last 25 years, waking the woke and strengthening conservatives. But we got some news.
We are moving from noon on Fridays to 4 p.m. on Fridays drive time It is great to talk to you each week, Brett. It's the highlight of my week, and I'm looking forward to this new time.
Where we are saving the conservative movement from the woke, and we are making America Florida.
America in View on Real Talk 93.3.
The most important hour of your week other than church on Sunday.
Orthopedic pain and injury deserves effective treatment options now, so you feel better fast. Whether you have joint pain that won't subside or an urgent orthopedic injury, we are the specialists to get you back on your feet. And there's only one thing better than fast care: expert care. We believe you deserve both. TOC, only experts. Learn more at teamtoc.com.
Tallahassee's 30-year-old funny paper and American Legion Post 13 have joined forces to become Major Morale. The new magazine has 4 more pages of post activities and military information that you probably never knew. But don't worry, it's still as politically correct and newsworthy as always. Okay, it's the same funny stuff, but it's still only available at the sponsors' locations like Tallahassee Automobile Museum, Krispy Kreme Donuts, Keith Lawson Services, or ABC Flooring. Tallahassee's leading supplier of in-stock, top-of-the-line ceramic, carpet, waterproof, and hardwood floors since 1990. At ABC Flooring, you can pick out your floor, and installation can begin in 48 hours. ABC Flooring is also the leading supplier of in-stock landlord property management products in the Panhandle. Visit their warehouse showroom on Capitol Circle Southeast or call 877-6600.
We're going abroad for the first time in years, to Spain. So we started using Babbel.
And started learning Spanish fast.
With Babbel, you can start having conversations in another language in just 3 weeks.
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿Cómo te llamas?
When you learn a language, you want to actually use it. Babbel is designed with that goal in mind.
In just 3 weeks, we're starting to have conversations in Spanish. Gracias, Babbel.
Babbel, language for life. Start learning a new language today at Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com.
Are you the parent of a 2 to 7-year-old? Listen closely for an exciting free radio offer. By now, you've probably heard of ABC Mouse, the Parents' Choice Award-winning online learning program that's actually changing the lives of early learners everywhere.
ABC Mouse is like a little one-on-one teacher. It has helped her so much.
Right now, we're offering a special radio promo to try it free for a month, but you have to go to abcmouse.com/radio to claim your free month. That's abcmouse.com/radio. Sponsored by Age of Learning.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news.
Early to enter the NFL draft, and I went, early? What the hell are you talking about, early? That dude's been running the ball at Clemson since Willie Taggart was here. Good Christ, I remember Will Shipley breaking tackles against Rodney Gowan and Derek Nicholson. I was like, didn't he truck Derek one day? I mean, I was like, this guy's never gonna leave, and he's leaving early? Did you feel the same way? Tom, did you think that was an early departure? I feel like Will Shipley's been playing football at Clemson since I had hair.
It kind of is true. I thought he had 1 year left because of COVID. Like, we're starting to get to the other side of that, where not everybody has the magical COVID year of eligibility.
Everybody has an 8th year of eligibility, yeah.
When he went down initially in the bowl game, I thought, oh, dear God, here comes another year of Will Shipley. And thankfully, we talked about that this morning on the phone. Thankfully, the medical report said he dodged major damage, and so therefore the groundwork was laid for him to be gone. But yeah, thankfully we got a win over him before his career was over, because we would have been 0-10.
Yeah, they're fine at running back. They've got plenty of talent at the position. I'm not talking about it from the standpoint, we're out of the woods, there's no more, they've got talent, but I feel like Will Shipley had been playing football at Clemson forever and a day.
Yeah.
They list him at 5'11", 210, and I was thinking, yeah, but you're not accounting for the pot belly, all the weight he puts on with those afternoon beers while he mows the lawn, gets set to pay the mortgage. I mean, my guy has been playing football a long time at Clemson, so good riddance. It's good to hear that news. The other note was that Brian Kelly at LSU is moving on from 4 assistant coaches. And I'm not going to lie, I really hope to read a similar headline at FSU. But, alas, it's not going to happen. But Kelly's not having it. By the way, LSU begins the 2024 season against USC in the Vegas Kickoff Classic. And I thought, can we pound the over right now? What's that number, 107 between LSU and USC in the September 1st Vegas Playoff Classic? And what a cool roadie for the fine folks at in Baton Rouge to go out to Vegas for their first game. I know we're going to Ireland, and it's tough to top that, of course. But if you're staying stateside, opening the season in Las Vegas wouldn't suck. My God, what a way to start the heavy season.
It's not a bad way to start the heavy season. I like ours better, but
Ireland's a better. But I'm saying if you're staying in the States.
If you're staying in the States, I'm sure they're damn tired at LSU of these openers. I mean, they've had us back-to-back years, and, as down as Florida State was, that was the way they talked about us 2 seasons ago. We beat their ass. It was a bad fourth quarter, but we really took it to them that game. Did it again this year. They're probably tired of being 0-1 at LSU, but that's it's potentially something that could happen.
Yeah, but I think they probably feel pretty good about it. It's not like you're playing Florida State. You're playing Southern Cal. They're not in the same league as Florida State. Southern Cal doesn't belong on the field with Florida State. So LSU's like, man, thank goodness we've got a reprieve. We don't have to play a juggernaut like Florida State that just ragdolled our ass all over the field for 7 of the 8 quarters. This is going to be good. We've got this wussified defensive effort from USC every year that gives up 40 points a game. We can do this. And they've got a legitimate quarterback following up on the heels of Jaden Daniels.
So because of what Brian Kelly did, I took a look at the news wires from the Woodson to Surtan change just to see when Coach Woodson voluntarily took the Arkansas job.
Yes.
And without any
great opportunity at Arkansas, yes.
Without any provocation whatsoever, just said, you know what? I think Arkansas is an upgrade for me. And that was January 2nd. Mm-hmm. January 2nd on the calendar. So if news would be coming in that realm, it would be coming imminently.
Well, that's yes, Tom. This is our concern, dude. This is where I am currently sitting with the, all right, I think we've got a lot of evidence that perhaps we need to shake a few things up, even in the wake of a 13-0 season. Cleaning house is what some people would call Brian Kelly's move, by the way. Now, defensive coordinator and linebackers coach Matt House was the first to get fired. My man didn't have to come into the office to get the news. He had already moved. He knew damn well. Imagine you're at LSU and you're the defensive coordinator and linebackers coach for a team that can't stop air. This is like that. My man knew he was done. Safeties coach Kerry Cooks fired. Cornerbacks coach Robert Steeples fired. Defensive line coach Jimmy Lindsey fired. That defensive staff had to feel that coming. It'll be interesting, to say the least, to see if Mike Norvell moves on from a single member of his coaching staff. It is hard to do it after going 13-0. And you have to make tough decisions after a season in which you accomplished all your goals and one was stolen. So you didn't get the opportunity to complete the task, but you did everything you could do, everything you could possibly do. That doesn't mean that you can sit idly by or remain idle and expect something similar to occur next year. You've got to continue to assess and really look into the guys that are maybe dead weight in the world of recruiting. If you're a coach that doesn't bring in talent, that struggles in the world of recruiting, and we don't see great strides being made in terms of development at certain positions, then a jaundiced eye is cast and questions are asked. And that's what I'm doing. Now, you can disagree with me. Mike might. But I think it's worth watching closely to see if anything in the next 48 hours happens. I thought we might get – I think you asked me, by the way, one time in one of the red zones that we did, Artisan Financial Services, where you asked me what was it, over under 1.5?
No, I think it was 0.5. So I was telling you, will there be one? Yeah.
Yeah, I would think there would need to be one. They are struggling to win contested battles in recruiting on the defensive side of the ball, and for the creme de la creme. Now, it can't carry over into the portal battles would be the point, right? That's the thing. You know, it's frustrating, but you can lose a couple battles in high school recruiting as you're on the come up, but you can't lose these portal battles. You haven't lost these portal battles in the past. And if you do now, then we're going to have a different conversation and a different tenor.
Well, that's the thing about high school kids and the amount of resources you would have to deploy to land some of those 5-star pluses, as On3 calls them. Do you want to do that for an unproven player that they might walk into your locker room and into your culture and be one of your top 5 most compensated players? And what does that do to the dynamic of your locker room? Because that might be what it takes to fend off an Auburn or a Georgia or a desperate Miami, something along those lines. That might be the kind of amount it takes. And that's where they would place. So in last year's roster, maybe Jordan Travis and Jared Verse and Trey Benson are doing better than this stud, 5-star, but maybe nobody else. Like, that could be problematic. So would you rather spend your resources on a proven player in the portal or in retention, or on that 17 or 18-year-old who's not proven? To me, I would rather spend a lot of money for the big-time players on the portal, but you can't lose them, because when you get to portal time, you've already been through high school time. So you know what you need to have and what you do not have. And that's where there's an urgency to this. And it feels like, while, again, Florida State has done some good things in the portal this year, they were badasses last year. They were badasses the year before that. We'll see. There's more time, but there's an urgency to these decisions and for this window. Because if you can get some more guys in here for spring, there's a lot more reps to be had. Last year, if you brought somebody in who was a redshirt sophomore, perhaps, man, it'd be tough to climb up that 2 deep. This year, there's a ton of opportunity in spring to get a lot of work, maybe with the ones.
I'll answer James's question. He says, well, Kelly lost 3 games. Why should Norvell fire some staff members? Well, sometimes you win games in spite of certain individuals on your staff. Sometimes you win games and overcome weaknesses within your staff, and you have to still assess to try to grow and be better, even in the wake of excellence, because you're trying for perfection. Obviously, it's an unattainable goal for the most part, but you're also trying to be the best version of what you can be. And Florida State is still climbing in spite of a 13-0 season. Florida State still has a ways to go, in my estimation, in terms of stockpiling national championship contending talent on an annual basis. Like, I think that they did an amazing job, and it put them ahead of schedule of filling the holes on their roster with the right mix of portal players and then development. Obviously, see Jordan Travis's development. That's an amazing turnaround from what he was to what he became. And then in other areas, you could just look where they filled holes in the portal. But certain guys, all the while that this was happening, were not pulling their weight in the world of recruiting. And in some of those guys, I would dare say, didn't pull their weight in recruiting nor development. And those are guys that I personally would have to target and think, can I do better? Now, whenever you say, and by you, I mean me, that somebody should be fired, or that you would look another direction, obviously you've got to have somebody else in mind. But that's Mike's job. And that's Mike's job, is to have other people in mind for these spots that he think could fill that role and do a better job than what he has on his staff. If he answers the question that it needs to be done, but he doesn't have a viable replacement, then he can't do it. But you see, this is the time of the year, and this is why we're talking about it right now. It's the time of the year where these changes are made. It doesn't do me any good to start, talking about this in June. This is when you talk about that these changes would happen.
Well, in terms of that, I think it's important to note that while Florida State's reputation might have taken a hit, and certainly did in the high school ranks, and maybe even in the transfer portal for being a so-called Power 5 team that was left out of the college football playoff, the first of its kind, the reputation for Florida State as a pipeline for coaches for advancement, to make more money, to better their career, that's untouchably good right now for Mike Norvell. That's untouchably good. It was before 13-0. It was already that way. His reputation in the industry is sterling in terms of advancement and opportunity, and then the proof is in the pudding, where many assistant coaches and coordinators under his leadership have landed other jobs and more money. So, I think if you're talking about it from a perspective of, does anybody want to come to Florida State that could replace an assistant coach? I'm sure there's a long list of very qualified candidates.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the other reason that I don't even entertain the idea that it couldn't be done. I know that it has to be. I know that he has to look at his options and see that he likes one over the other. And if it's not there, then he can't do it. But that's just talking about process. That doesn't mean that I don't think they're out there. They're out there. And I'm just interested to see if Mike sees it the way that we see it. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he turns out to be right, and we'll have egg on our face, and we'll talk about it when it happens. If it doesn't, I'll also talk about it. That you can be sure of that. And we're seeing right now some things that make you concerned. It's Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Local news now.
The Quincy man and 3 minors were arrested early Wednesday morning after breaking into someone's property late Tuesday night and firing shots during an attempt to flee. Around 11:30 p.m., officers responded to the area of South Patton Street in reference to a burglary. About an hour later, Quincy police received word via radio that Gaston County Sheriff's Office deputies were out on a felony stop with the suspects. It was later discovered that the suspects returned to the residence while the victim was sitting in his driveway in his vehicle. The suspects then fled away once the victim placed his vehicle in drive and then proceeded to follow them. Once the suspects realized they could not lose the victim, they shot approximately 7 rounds from the vehicle. Sheriff's deputies responded, then conducted a traffic stop. A firearm was located as well as the victim's property that was stolen inside the vehicle. Haywood was transported and booked into Gaston County Jail. The 3 juveniles were transported to the Juvenile Assessment Center in Tallahassee. This is Rachel Linney with your Real Talk 93.3 Local News Update, brought to you by McLemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at McLemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. Highs level off around 59 this afternoon. Under sunny skies, winds out of the north, 8 to 15 miles per hour. Lows dip down to about 37 tonight. A blend of clouds and sun tomorrow, 66. Daytime highs approaching 71 Saturday with a chance of thunderstorms. 61, cloudy skies expected Sunday. This report is brought to you by the Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Right now, 56.
Hey, no fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future. So everybody knows, Eddie, that you are a spectacular cook. Of course they know that. If they go into Bumpa's, the food is always good. I mean, everything on the menu.
Mm-hmm.
Everything at Gordo's is delicious. I always, of course, get the bungalow chungla, as I call it.
The bungalow chung, Jeff?
Is that what is the pork?
The bungalow chung, Jeff.
Okay, the bungalow chungla. It's delicious. All of these things, all the items, everything you do, a master cook. But, sir, I would ask you, what is a skill that you possess that you're particularly proud of that nobody would know and that you could share with us here?
Growing hair, Jeff. Growing hair.
Bringing the flavor and flavor. Even clean to Tallahassee since 1996.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.
a little on the needle. We're not going to see a lot of this, right? With Florida State basketball talk. So just a cursory glance. But I do think they're moving in a direction where we may see some more consistent play. We could use it. The team hasn't been good. They did kind of manhandle Georgia Tech last night. They bothered to play a little bit of defense right from the get-go. They had a 32-19 halftime lead. And in addition to that, he held Georgia Tech to 26% shooting in that first half. Over the first 20 minutes of play, teams have been hitting threes all over Florida State all season long. Georgia Tech was 1 of 14 in the first half. Florida State ended up extending the margin to 17 points with about 17 minutes to play in the game. You could really see where Florida State was in control of this basketball game, and they had 12 healthy, available scholarship players, all of whom scored. Chandler Jackson had a career high in 14 points on 5 of 7 shooting. They've got him he's able to play the 2, and Primo Spears is being the guy that as the playmaker off the bench. You saw a little bit more out of Baba Miller. I mean, look, I don't think this is going to be a great season, but there's hope now that you're in conference play and you get this win. You start to see more consistent play. Maybe it is worth mentioning here. I'm rooting for Ham, obviously. The next game is Florida State at the TLC Double C against Virginia Tech Saturday at 4:00. This is not as good a Virginia Tech team as it has been in years past. They have pretty good guard play, and we've been torched by their good guards, that the Padula kid and the Couture kid. So Florida State is, in order to avoid, a disastrous season and maybe make the ding-ding, I dare say, they got to win all these home games against mediocre to average ACC teams that they're going to face and maybe scrape together a couple of road wins. And that's the best they're going to be able to hope for. Fall into a top 80 net ranking, and you get your NIT bid. I know, Tom, I can hear it, right? Everybody changing the channel, but it's worth mentioning that I think they've kind of figured out the rotation.
Yeah, it's within range to have a surprising result or two between now and the end of the year. Some years when it's really lean in the last 15 seasons under Coach Ham, like it's impossible to register a win over a top 10 or top 15 team. I'm here to tell you that this group could, but they're gonna drive you mad in between. So it's just about what days do they summon whatever extra they have. And
yeah, less mad right now, though. I think they've found something. I think they're going to play this group the way that they did. I think he's finally figured out the rotation. The other thing is health. They finally got healthy. They didn't have everybody healthy. I'm not making excuses. I don't think they're a great team. You can't lose it at home to Lipscomb and have me, say you're a great team. You're not. And that's not a one-off. I mean, here they sit, a game above 500. So it's not like they've been out here, kicking ass. They haven't, but I do think there's a chance that this season doesn't go completely haywire the way it has the last couple of years, which has been, it's just been sad to watch. It's the strangest damn thing in the world. I was talking to somebody yesterday and they said, I'm still in the dumps about the situation with Florida State. And it got me wondering about everything that happened, and how long that will have an effect on this program, or at least the fan base's mood, right? The psyche of this fan base. But I thought the other reason for it was that a lot of times, okay, as you transition and you try to move on, the season's over, good, let's get into the portal, find out what we're able to attain there. We start projecting out. We look at, obviously yesterday we had Michael on to talk about the lawsuit, and there are other topics. Then you get into the NFL playoffs coming up. Hey, by the way, pitchers and catchers report in less than 60 days, everybody. Woohoo! It's happening soon, right? Golf season's getting underway. These are all things that excite me. But under the umbrella of Florida State, I realized when you want to move on at Florida State from football and the disappointment of having been robbed by the committee, well, you can't run into the arms of Florida State basketball right now. That ain't going to do you any good. And, oh, by the way, the Florida State baseball team sucked to high heaven last year. And so all of a sudden it hits you. If you're just talking about the big three, you ought to have a lot more pep in your step after going 13-0 than you do. But 13-0 turned into somehow, not Florida State's fault, bitter disappointment only to be followed by nowhere to turn.
Yeah, it was only a few short years ago, I guess it'll be 4 this March, that you had a team that could have won the whole thing, for basketball. And you were kind of just powering through football to get to basketball, and you were, longingly running into the arms of basketball. And it might have been November of football season. You're saying, come on, let's get it going. And the TLC Double C delivered every time for about a 3-4 year stretch there. Every time you went win or lose, they won most of the time, but it delivered. It was always an awesome experience. It was tearing apart at the seams for several of those games. The overtime streak that Florida State has had so many of those wins were at the TLC Double C. It could be a Saturday afternoon at 2, and you just couldn't wait. You're up at 9 a.m. saying, let's tip this thing off, baby. And now in this iteration of what Florida State is doing, I'm saying, I'm tired of the transfer portal windows, but I'm glad we have the transfer portal windows, because this is all that matters right now is empire building for Mike Norvell. And the whole thing is some of the building crumbling faster than you can reassemble it. And that's the feeling for football, just for 2024. I think long-term they project just fine, but that's what the fascination is right now. It's not, hey, man, can Florida State get to 12 ACC wins, 14 ACC wins if the ball bounces right? It's like, no, how many times can they surprise you on a random Tuesday or Wednesday night where you say, okay, there you go, Florida State. I'm hoping for 2 more times before the season's out. Other than that, there's going to be several losses where you can barely watch.
It's empire building was a good descriptor, Tom, that you used there. I think that's the better way to that's the jumping off point for our conversations. I think some people, if you're a casual, and I'm not chiding anybody or talking down to anybody, a lot of people listening right now know what I'm about to say to be true, but not everybody does. So it's worth clarifying. Some people would look at 13-0 and say, what's with the criticism? I don't understand how there can be criticism. But when you are operating towards being a dominant national championship caliber and or national championship winning program, there's always work to be done. You're either sustaining something or you're moving towards something, right? You're going to have to continue. It's the hardest thing in the world. But I have those expectations for Florida State. I think Mike Norvell does too. This isn't Boise. You're not at Wake. You're not at these places where that is not an obtainable goal. In those places, you would certainly not say a word after going 13-0. Not a word of criticism could be lobbed at schools that have virtually no shot to ever win a national championship. You would just relish the idea that you went to a bowl. Those are those programs. That's not this program. This program seeks to be the best in all of college football. Now it's a lofty goal. It's a really hard thing to achieve. It's done it a few times in its rather short history. Florida State has been the best program in college football. I'm not talking about a singular year. I'm talking about sustained excellence. Florida State has been that before, multiple times, as have, and we know the legendary programs, right? We're amongst those. Some have achieved more. I'm not saying we're the best of all time. Of course not. But we're in those conversations. And if that is where you're trying to go, then you don't just see 13-0 and say, oh, well, all's good. Everything's all right. No, you say, good. Man, are we ahead of schedule? You keep context in mind. You certainly recognize that you were a bottom feeder sub 500 program a few years back. So you know from whence you came. You realize that Florida State is much better off in a more rapid time period than you ever thought possible if you put yourself in the place of the 5-7 team and you viewing said 5-7 team, right? Like the way you looked at what was possible then to where you are now has shifted dramatically. And almost all of that is incredibly positive. But you're not done, and he's not done. And there's a lot of work to be done to not take a big step backwards. So when you hear these criticisms, either from me or others, about Florida State and what still needs to be done, the work that still needs to be done, we're talking about getting to that place, that elite, rarefied air of being the best team in college football. That's what you're striving for. Easier said than done. Most people can't sustain it. Hell, Alabama can't even sustain it right now, right? So it's tough to do. Georgia is atop that mountain. And even though they didn't make the college football playoff this year, we would recognize their run over the last several years as the best in college football, right? Back-to-back national titles. They lost only a game this year. Certainly, it's a worthy argument that Georgia's one of the 4 best teams in the country this year. That's what they are. We know they're going to be really good again next year, et cetera. That's where you're trying to get to. And Florida State will not attain that, will not get to that place, will not take another step towards that place if they don't do really well in the portal and fill the holes in the areas and segment groups that we've described, and won't ever attain that and get back to that place if they're not self-scouting, if they're not looking in the mirror and asking themselves, what can we be doing better? How do we arrive there? It may not be to fire this coach or fire that coach. I'm not Mr. Fire Everybody. But for others, it might be. For others, it's worth talking about. For others, it's worth having a conversation, especially when the evidence takes you to that place.
I know I've got a minute to get this in, but I'll try to. The question has come up a lot of when can Florida State expect to be a title contender again? Because they were this year, but when's the next chance? And I know the couched answer would be 2025. They don't have enough in the front 7. They might not have enough at offensive line, but they definitely don't have enough in the front 7 to be a contender 2 seasons from now. And that, to me, is the best way to explain the gap in what needs to be done with the program and what isn't getting done with the program. The portal is the only way they can contend in 2025 with the front 7 because they don't have enough from the high school ranks. And why is that? We all know the answer.
Yeah. People don't like having that conversation. It's Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Hey, Jimmy. Yeah. You got one of those new cars that keeps you in the lane when you're driving or slams on the brakes if you get too close to another car?
No, I don't like that fancy technology stuff.
A lot of people don't. It's called lane departure warning and forward collision alert. And all that fancy stuff is attached to your windshield. So if it gets damaged, you need a qualified company like Seminoles Auto Glass to replace and recalibrate your windshield. But don't call your insurance company. Just go to SeminoleAutoglass.com and upload your insurance card. Hey, Jimmy.
What?
Did you know that Teslas come with a unique new car smell? They call it Elon Musk.
Oh.
Better call Seminole.
Your heating and air conditioning system doesn't check with you before it takes a break. That's why we're always ready to help. Any day, anytime, anywhere. And with our annual service agreement, there are no overtime charges. Ever. At Verno Heating and Air, we will always be there for you.
Verno Heating and Air Conditioning.
License CAC 1816186.
So I have been in the operating room most of my career, watching people have orthopedic surgery, watching people get knees replaced, hips replaced, shoulders fixed, and I knew there had to be a better way.
That's Dr. Daniel Zuckerman, a medical director for QC Kinetics, the nation's leader in non-invasive regenerative treatments for pain relief.
I see so many people who could have been helped before they got to the operating room if only they had known about regenerative medicine.
QC Kinetics, a natural alternative that uses your body's own healing properties to help restore and repair damaged joint tissue, providing long-lasting relief without drugs, surgery, or downtime.
Well, it feels great when I do get to see somebody who we help, who I know I kept out of the operating room. It's amazing how we change people's lives without surgery.
Call QC Kinetics for your free consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 850-391-4280. That's 850-391-4280. 850-391-4280.
Let's take a minute to imagine all the things you can accomplish with help from Southeast Portable Buildings. Are you a hoarder? Hoard some more. Get a storage shed. Mother-in-law moving in with you? Put her in a shed out back. I'm kidding. Still working on that engine that you're going to finish from last summer? Move it out to a new workspace with Southeast Portable Buildings. From she sheds and man caves to repair shops and trophy rooms, the possibilities are only limited to your imagination. Visit Southeast Portable Buildings today.
There's fun to be had every night at the Corner Pocket. Take home prizes on Trivia Tuesdays and Beer Bingo Thursdays. And kickstart your weekend with Martini Fridays. Plus, happy hour runs every weekday and game day specials every time the Noles take the field. Watch all the best games at the Corner Pocket's Vegas Wall, featuring 560 inches of flat screen TV heaven.
Oh, really?
The best food, the best drinks, and the best place to watch all the games. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
Coming up next, more of the Jeff Cameron Show. Live and local on Real Talk 93.3. WVFT, Gretna, Tallahassee.
The latest betting odds and line movements from Vegas. This is your action update. Now here are your latest lines from our guys in the desert.
Jacksonville Jaguars football, they match up against the Titans this weekend as the Jaguars try to clinch the division. Quarterback Trevor Lawrence was limited in practice yesterday after he missed the game this past weekend, so that is a step forward for him. Jacksonville, 5-point favorite, over-under at 39.5. Buccaneers and Panthers play in Charlotte. The Buccaneers need to win that division. Quarterback Baker Mayfield would not have practiced if they would have practiced yesterday. He is dealing with a rib issue. The Buccaneers are considered 4.5-point favorites, over-under at 37.5. The Dolphins looking to win the division with a win against the Bills coming up on Sunday night. The Buffalo, a 3-point favorite, over-under 49.5.
For the latest odds all the time, visit vsin.com. I'm Matt Pauley. This has been your action update on Tallahassee's Real Talk station, Real Talk 93.3.
It's Macy's one-day sale tomorrow with great deals of the day, like 40 to 60% off handbags, shoes, and accessories to complete any look, 50 to 65% off warm, on-trend coats for her, and 50% off designer bedding from Hotel Collection and more. Plus, get your online order even faster when you pick up in-store or curbside at Macy's. Savings off sale and clearance prices, exclusions apply.
Progressive presents an ad from Mom.
Hello, is it on? Oh, okay. Bundle your home and auto insurance with Progressive and get protection round the clock. Round the clock? Does this generation even understand what round the clock means? But I'm just saying, because don't come to me when they ask to do this over, because the kids won't get it.
Get round-the-clock protection when you bundle and save with Progressive. It's easier than getting your mom to make this radio ad. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states or situations.
This is Jamie McClenny with Trek Financial in Tallahassee. While domestic equities closed down for the third consecutive month at the end of October, valuations remain near historic highs based on most historic metrics. Managing downside risk in your portfolio is one of the biggest challenges you will face in retirement. While you can't control performance, you can control the risk in your portfolio. Markets are going to do what markets are going to do, but a clearly defined risk management protocol can help to mitigate large drawdowns in your retirement nest egg. Valuations remain near historic highs based on most historic metrics. If you're concerned where this might be headed, give me a call at 850-900-5200 and schedule a time for a risk-focused portfolio review. Or you can visit us on our website at trektlh.com. That's trektlh.com.
Make Jamie your first call for that second opinion. Investment advisory services offered through Trek Financial, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. I'm Greg Tisch, and I want to share how it all began at Tallahassee Community College. During a quiet moment on a fishing trip in 1963, FSU President Gordon Blackwell looked to Lewis Hill, who was a member of the Leon County Board of Public Instruction, and said, "Lou, why don't you get a junior college?" When Lou told Gordon he felt the college would compete with FSU, Gordon responded, "Nah, you ought to have one." We don't know if they caught any fish that day, but they did catch a big idea.
TCC thanks our community for 58 years of support. We look forward to moving into the future together.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
Broadcasting live from Florida's capital city, this is the Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness on Real Talk 93.3. Now, stop what you're doing and listen closely. It's time for the Jeff Cameron Show in
It's at Jay Cameron Show. Good to have you along. Hope you're well. Go to a nice dinner tonight, Tom, after my son's basketball game. Going to do it up, sit outside, enjoy myself, watch a little college basketball.
So sitting outside wouldn't be a play for us right now up here, but what kind of food are you getting?
Well, I'm not sure, but the kind of restaurant I'm going to is this is a nice restaurant. This is a nice one. So it's probably either going to be a delectable steak or Micah seafood, or both, Tom, or both. Could be surf and turf. You don't know.
Is this a place that had the coffee rub steak that we once went to?
It's not that place, no. Okay. No, it's not that place. So we'll see. By the way, really quickly, I don't want to get it out there because I get distracted. I always forget. Here you go. Take South Florida. They're on a roll. Lay the 5.5 against Temple. You know we're getting in the weeds, kids. It's time. You got to start locking it in. They've won 5 straight games as USF. Unfortunately, one of those was over Florida State. And if you're looking at their points per possession numbers right now, they've been phenomenal. So I'm going to ride the hot hand with that one. And I may actually take the under in Coastal Carolina against Texas State. We're doing, Tom, there's a new way to do this. Now, if you want to play the siren, guys, you go ahead. You crank that siren all you want. I understand. But there's a new way to do this, and as college basketball has gotten metric heavy, I embrace it as a gambler. I don't have to watch. I'm doing the Moneyball approach to gambling college basketball right now. I don't have to watch the games. I just need to know who are creating the best looks. That's a stat now too, Tom. Like when you talk about getting a good shot, in essence, we look at metrics now that gauge how often do you get a good shot. That's reliable over time. Are you creating good shots? Are you keeping others from having good looks? Then you look at tempo. We start gauging over and unders. You look at streaks. You look at which player. It's a good time. So I'm doing it. I'm going there, and I'm going to say listen, again, I'm not telling you this team's going to the Sweet 16. I'm just telling you I'm betting on them tonight and laying the 5.
That's not bad. I've started to hone in my skills on the hockey. That's something that's on the TV a lot up here. Like even if you go out, hockey's on television, and I'm going, oh, look at this. The people in the North embrace the hockey. Okay, yeah, what do you know? It's almost like it's fit for that. But I've been playing the Lightning a lot on the under. In terms of the goal totals, they pushed the other night. It was a bad beat against Winnipeg. It's 6 again, 6 flat, and I don't love that number. Mm-hmm. So you get more insurance at 6.5 against Minnesota. But generally speaking, they're playing a tighter, more conservative style of hockey because they have their defenseman hurt. You would think defenseman hurt means more goals against, but if you're trying to account for that, you're going to play more conservatively. So just as somebody who watches a lot of Lightning hockey, that 6 is still tempting enough for tonight. They're playing Minnesota in the 8 o'clock hour.
If you're like me, here you go. We all jump back into the world of golf. Top 10, Tom Kim at plus 1,600. I always sprinkle pizza money on Sepp Straka when I can. Top 10 for Sepp. Eric Cole, top 20. Luke List, top 20. Also went with Sepp to win it at plus 4,000.
Okay. Now, I think anytime you sprinkle pizza money on Sepp, or maybe sometimes more than pizza money on Sepp, it should be known as the Tallahassee Zaxby's Sepp Straka pick of the week, because I believe that they're acquaintances, people from the Tallahassee Zaxby's ownership area and Sepp Straka himself.
It's awesome that you tied this into a promotion for our friends at Zaxby's who sponsor this show, sponsor this hour, and we wrap our arms around it because you are correct, sir. Danny, a proud Golden Chief booster for over 18 years, and his company there, Zaxby's, delicious food, are in fact friends with the Straka family. And I don't think he would mind me telling you that, as he told us that over lunch.
He did.
And I have been told that Sepp is willing to sit down with yours truly and do an interview. So I don't know how it services the Florida State audience, but it would be great for me to be able to do, and I'd love to sit down and talk to Sepp. So I think I will. And we'll have it as an aside. Maybe it would be a bellying up.
maybe tonight you can play a number. Let's see. Do they have individual round numbers for Sepp Straka? Over under, say, 68.5? And then we could have a Sepp Straka update tomorrow presented by our friends at Tallahassee area Zaxby's.
I like that. We'll do that. We'll do it a constant. By the way, so if you're new to golf betting, folks, when you pick a winner, you don't expect to win. It's just a little bit of pizza money in case you happen to actually win the tournament. That's why you get crazy odds. Even the guys that, even if you're like Scotty Scheffler, it's still like plus 550. It's not, you're not usually going to pick the winner. Gone are the days where you could say it was 2000 and you'd bet on Tiger Woods at minus money against an entire field.
No, man. Like in a field of 80, even 5-1 is absurd. I mean, it's absurd. That tells you how good you are. But
yes.
40-1, I like it. I like it because you'll hit one or two every other year. That's what the odds say you're going to do. And then you feel like you just made it rain, even though you're probably breaking even if you account for, 60 weeks worth of picks of outright winners.
Florida State is hosting defensive back Earl Little Jr., and that is the news of the day in the portal, other than you lost the Purdue defensive end, who many thought might be a slam dunk when he entered his name into the portal and seemed excited about visiting Florida State. Well, he chose not to. He didn't arrive. The visit to Texas A&M was all he needed, and he said that's where he's going. So in the wake of that disappointment, you wanted good news, you got good news. It appears that Earl Little Jr., a really high-profile Studley defensive back transfer opportunity, is excited about the possibility of coming to Florida State. A lot of people think in the business that this is almost a lock. He played high school football for Patrick Surtain at what is that, American Heritage? Do I remember that right?
Mm-hmm.
So that makes some sense, and it would be good. And he would join his former high school teammate Marvin Jones Jr., who, of course, committed to Florida State after entering the portal and leaving Georgia. Those would be two pretty high-profile gets when you're talking about the level of athleticism and talent, untapped to some extent. Those two guys would head the list. Earl Little played at the University of Miami before going on to have an NFL career with the Saints and the Packers and the Browns, and is an all-world athlete. His son is, and so is Marvin Jones, obviously. So these would be very, very good gets. And you need this news. You need more of this to start sprinkling in. You need to find out that there are kids excited about coming to Florida State, and those kids need to say yes when they get here, because Florida State has very real holes to fill. I want to hear about linebackers that are excited to make their way to Tallahassee. That's next on my list. That and offensive linemen. And there are no shortage of offensive linemen that are out there now, some of whom are really talented. Two of whom are from Alabama. And don't mind if I do. If you could find a way to close the deal on a couple of those cats, it would be a big deal for Florida State. They've got holes to fill. Let's see if they can get it done. They've been ultra successful in the portal in the Mike Norvell era. And we all know that. It's lauded and talked about for a very good reason. But they've started a little slow this time around. And on the heels of that game and the disappointment of the ending of this season, you really hope that somehow that didn't cast a pall over the program and it affects potential portal candidates. We can say it's silly. We can say it doesn't matter. We can say all those things, but sometimes those things can work against you in the world of recruiting, and recruiting the portal is still recruiting.
It is. And look, to me, this probably extends all the way through the spring semester, but if you can see fit to retain Farmer and Jackson in the middle, and I know that they're not in the portal officially right now, but you're always on pins and needles a little bit. But if you can retain those two guys with the work you've done at defensive end, getting Marvin Jones Jr. to come to campus, you're probably a player or two away from really liking your defensive line across the board. At linebacker, you're probably 2 or 3 players away from really liking what linebacker brings to the table, which is to say basically almost the whole rotation of about 4. Because I think in a perfect world, they'd like to rotate 4 dudes throughout a game, and they already do. In some games, they rotated as many as 5 linebackers this past season, but right now you're super thin there. Earl Little helps because it's just more positive momentum. I don't know where he's going to line up. He's listed as just under 6 feet tall. So I don't know if that, immediately means that he would be a slot corner or a safety for us. Hard to know. Patrick Surtain has the best idea of anybody about where he's going to fit. And On3 had him as a top 5 defensive back last year, or the year that he came out from the high school ranks. So that's a good nugget, but it's about the trenches and it's about linebacker at this point. If you're looking for news that is at least going to make the guy to the left of me on Warchant TV really happy, it's about fortifying the ranks of the trenches. Defensive tackle is not that big of a need if you retain. Defensive end, you need at least 1. Linebacker, 2 to 3. Offensive lineman, probably 2 to 3 as well. I think if you get those shopping items all taken care of, and maybe you toss in a receiver or a running back here or there, that's all well and good, but the real substance is near the football.
Yeah, and that's why. And James B., I saw you mention to me, and there were some other folks that had mentioned receivers and running backs, and I'm not ignoring you. First of all, I'm not always looking at the chat, but secondly, when I do, if I see it, it's not the first thing that I answer, not because I'm ignoring you, but those aren't the things that are moving me, man. I just, when you watch the depth and size of talent, the ferocity of offensive and defensive linemen that you see like at Georgia, and again, that's where we're trying to get to. And I'm not using the 63-3 game as the gauge. We've talked about the lack of championship level depth here for some time, that they're ahead of schedule, and it's awesome that they are, but they got to get to that level. And right now they're not anywhere close to that level. So when you talk to me about an offensive lineman that's a 4 or 5-star kid coming out of high school that went to Georgia, went to Alabama, went to wherever, Texas, Oklahoma, went somewhere else, and then now they're interested in Florida State, man, do I perk up. Okay, we know that the baseline talent is there. Now it's up to, it's up to us to do our due diligence and find out why is the kid transferring. But because Florida State's been so good in the portal, I've pretty well trusted that they vetted these guys. They've given me a reason to give them the benefit of the doubt. It almost allows for me to be lazy. Like if every time they went after a kid in the portal and that kid came in, and let's say, well, I shouldn't say every time, but every time they brought in a guy or each time they brought in a guy, we kind of saw, oh, well, there are behavioral issues, or this guy doesn't seem to really kind of get along with others. It's going to be a cultural problem here in the locker room, or maybe, he's fresh off an injury. We would all kind of look at these portal guys with a raised eyebrow. But because the vast majority of what they've brought in certainly got along well, did not disrupt the culture, and in many cases improved the team immensely, when you hear about any of these guys now, you kind of just assume that they've done the proper due diligence, and you're pretty much right to assume so until proven otherwise.
Yeah, and for me, I'm just looking forward to multi-year players in the trenches. Like Marvin Jones Jr., I don't think is a one and done. So I'm very fired up about that because there's some refinement that needs to come to his game. And if he takes a step forward this year, then he's one of your prime retention candidates for next season. So that's nice. It's a 2-year solution to the problem. The more of those that you can find in the trenches, the better. Because you're not going for broke this year the way you did last season. 2023, to me, again, it's over now. Well, except for one more game. But for Florida State, it is. It was a gettable year because the field was more wide open. You had fewer juggernaut powers like Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, with defined solutions across the board, the 22 positions. So that made it gettable to me. I thought it was awesome that we went for broke. But I think that's exactly what we did. This year, I think it's about you're trying to fix the immediate while really trying to make sure that the long-term is secure through the portal. So I hope that's what they do. Because the more rentals they bring in, I'm not going to be mad about it. Don't get me wrong. If it's a 1-year player and he's a badass, that's great. Bring him on in. And that's what the Purdue kid would have been. But if you can find me some multi-year guys that, it's either because they have to play 2 years or they're on the way up, that's better for us in projecting long-term. Because the fear for me is, they could be ahead of schedule right now, but if they don't mind their P's and Q's in the portal, then they're going to be on schedule after next season or maybe a little bit behind schedule. Like, it's great that you're here right now, but you could fall behind that curve if you don't manage the next 2-3 months in terms of portal recruiting well.
By the way, sorry, James B., I misread what I was talking about there. The Toomey kid that you're asking about is the lineman. I was thinking of the other kid, the it doesn't matter. It's not Toomey.
Oh,
It's
the running back? Yeah.
The running back. Couldn't remember his name. But no, the kid from Furman is who he's talking about, offensive lineman. I always like offensive linemen. Always get excited about offensive linemen. I didn't watch Furman play this year. I'm not going to lie to you.
So that kid played
Furman play this year. So
that kid played tackle for them. He said in his interview today that they're looking at guard. He said to the media that we had lost both of our starting guards. So I guess that means that Darius figures to be a tackle for us next year. If you're just looking for little clues as to what's going on, that means they think that Darius is going to be a tackle, but he projects to be a guard. And then he's heading to South Carolina and NC State before he makes a decision.
Yeah, if we don't get him, I'll be all right. If he takes it on down the road, if Pearson doesn't come here, I'll be okay with that. But it's kind of funny. It's going to be an important year for a lot of coaches on this staff, and I actually think that Alex Atkins is one of them. It'll be interesting to see where we're at. This is we're waiting on that development, right? I mean, I think you're with me on this.
I am. It is a big year because you can have those solutions, and everybody will, not everybody. You and I, if we've got underlying concerns, they would be allayed. If Lucas Simmons, who was cleared late in the year, that's according to his own teammate, so there's another clue, but was cleared late in the year, if he's a solution for you at tackle, even if it develops by the end of the season, you're like, okay, that's nice. If Andre Otto continues to develop as
Otto, really excited about what he'll be.
They're excited about Jalen Early. So we'll see what he does in spring and fall. I'm sure he's got a chance. And then whatever comes of Julian Armella. I mean, Armella has been an interesting storyline. He seemed like at the time of signing day 2 years ago, Florida State's leading candidate to be the first guy among that class that makes the starting five. I think Early's probably the better candidate at this point, but we'll see how it all shakes out.
I'm glad you brought up Lucas Simmons. He got lost in the shuffle for Florida State because we were talking about guys like Julian Armella, and we were talking about the players that were starting and the depth that they had brought in because of the portal, right? And so buyers and people like that were brought in. And so we didn't think going into the season, oh, well, he's not going to play this year, so we kind of just forgot about him. But he was a prized catch. I mean, this was a kid with real feet. It's hard to find 6'8" with a wingspan like that. And remember when he arrived, this is a big, strong kid. This is a kid that had a great lower body. So right off the bat, when he got here, I joke about it on the show all the time. We're looking at him, and I'm saying he's got a great ass. Big old ass. That's what you need right there. There's the weight. He's got all the weight you need anchored down low. But he's thin up top. Well, of course he is. He's 6'8". It's hard to fill that in at 6'8" when you're 18 years old. So we thought of him kind of like it'll be a year or two before he plays. But we loved what he was. And the early glimpses suggested really smooth, good bend, everything. You liked everything. But because you just said it, and because a teammate referenced it, we're now allowed to talk about it. The reason that Simmons kind of disappeared was he couldn't participate. He was not able to participate this year for Florida State. And so, and again, now that it's out there, and I won't get into the medical details, but we'd go to practice, and it wasn't long before we all began to wonder, well, where is he? Where is Simmons? I mean, this is a kid we're all excited about. Why is he not out here? Of course, we're not allowed to talk about those things. So we just kind of, all right, well, let's see what happens. Well, I will tell you, my personal concerns began to, like the red siren, the alarm started to go off. Like the longer that went on, Tom, the more I began to get really worried. And again, I'm not going to get into the medical, but the concern became sort of, are you kidding me? I'm really worried for this kid. Obviously, it starts with the kid. Anytime somebody is highly touted and brought in and they're not playing and they're not able to practice, you begin to wonder, okay, first, usually a lot of times based on the past, you kind of, well, maybe it's grades. I don't know. Maybe there's a discipline issue. Even if you don't know, you begin to speculate in your mind. You're like, okay, well, this too shall pass. We've seen a lot of people get in the doghouse for some reason. Maybe they missed a class or they showed up late to a meeting. You just don't know. So you kind of just knock some things around in your mind and you assume it'll work itself out. But you do begin to ask questions and you do begin to fish. And if it continues, you do begin to get really concerned. And it reached that place for me because this kid, in my mind, is potentially, from what we've seen of him, a first-round offensive tackle prospect. That kind of talent. Florida State has not brought that kind of talent in here often on the offensive line in recent years. Really, for a long, long time. And so, go ahead.
I was going to say, the timeline for him too was towards the end of spring. You started to see him rotate in with the twos. And I think some of that was for experience, but then some of that was because he wasn't bad.
He was pretty good, Tom. He was pretty good.
He was pretty good. The upper body was a little thinned out, and so he needed to get to work there. And, he thought, all right, maybe if he could put on some muscle up top, not saying he has to be a true freshman rotational piece, but you could see something, in garbage time, say in a Southern Miss game
he wasn't getting into those opportunities.
Right. And that's where people are asking the question, but we can't do anything with that question.
No, I can't do anything with that question. And by the way, I see somebody in the chat say, why wasn't he eligible? It was not a matter of eligibility. So again, you start getting concerned and you wonder, oh man, well, I hate it for this young man. Obviously I want him to be able to pursue his dreams and have an opportunity to play. I hate it for Florida State to get a guy of that magnitude to come in here and that potential and then not be able to play is potentially devastating. So let's fast forward. That to see him to see him come back, to be able to now participate and play, you forget that you have that in your back pocket. That Simmons is going to be a guy, we think, knock on wood it stays this way, that will be able to now get after it in the weight room, get after it on the field. He is a quick riser, a fast developer. He's got real talent. Who knows? You might be able to see something of significance from him this upcoming year. Don't know that, but you might.
The other thing I'd say is his reputation is sterling in terms of being a teammate, being committed. This is something that would make our film of the first few periods of practice. He was in full uniform every day. Now, that might sound strange given what we're talking about, but I want to put that out there because he was always a sponge on the practice field.
Yeah.
Always a sponge. So he wants to learn. He's got all the tools. He looked really impressive in his first camp of big-time college football. Was he dominant? No, by no stretch. But did he belong? Yes. Yes, he did. As a true freshman in his first camp. Yeah, this could be something that gets really fun really fast, and then it would allay some concerns. But again, he's a class younger than the one before, which had Early and Armella and Kayshawn Sapp and DeAndre Jones and Kenai Charlton and others. Those solutions, it looks like Early may be one, and maybe Armella could be too. But what a huge camp this is going to be for that offensive line. Can't wait to get down there back home and go see that for a week and see what these kids look like.
It's a big camp for those kids. I think it's a big season in camp for Alex Atkins. It's a big moment for the offensive and defensive lines, and I'll beat it till the cows come home, that drum over and over again. We got to see some development and real uptick in talent at linebacker. It's Jeff Cameron Show 93.3, Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Java, brew, go-go beans, brain water, liquid lightning, wakey juice, whatever you call your cup of coffee, you're missing out if it's not Grassroots Coffee. At grassrootscoffee.com, you'll find an easy way to order the best roasted coffee beans available. It's very simple. Choose the blend you want and how you want it ground, and the bag you receive will have the date your beans were roasted and packaged on it, all written by hand and signed by the roast master himself. You'll know that's as fresh as it gets. You can get Grassroots outside of your house also at some of your favorite restaurants in town. Next time you're out to eat, try asking for Grassroots Coffee by name because there's a good chance they will have it for you. And if you own a business, Grassroots Coffee has options to stock your break rooms with all the productivity powder your team needs. Plus, like some other options that you'll find at work, Grassroots Coffee actually is a part of our community. Hit grassrootscoffee.com today and get yourself a treat. Some locally owned, locally roasted, and locally loved Grassroots Coffee.
Hello, I'm Jimmy Fasig.
And I'm Dana Brooks of Fasig Brooks Law Offices.
When you're in an accident, traffic cameras can be the best source of evidence to prove who's at fault.
That's why Fasig Brooks has partnered with RoadProof to have access to all their traffic camera footage.
With RoadProof, we can search our network of traffic cameras to find the evidence to help you win your case.
Call us today to see if we can help find the proof to help you come back stronger.
Call us now at 850-777-7777.
Warning. The following Zaxby's ad may contain messaging upsetting to Philadelphians. Zaxby's took the iconic Philly sandwich, the quote-unquote perfect Philly sandwich, and made it perfecter by putting fried chicken on it. That's right, fried chicken on a Philly. And while Philadelphia might find it offensive, you can find it at your local Zaxby's. Finally, the Philly done right. Woo, sauce it! Zaxby's.
Excellence defines us, so we'll never let orthopedic pain and injury define you. TOC is a physician-led team of fellowship-trained specialists providing the highest level of orthopedic care in the region. With 12 centers of excellence and TOC Now urgent care clinics, our patients access affordable expert care fast. TOC, only experts. Schedule an appointment at teamtoc.com.
You're all set with your Medicare prescriptions, Mrs. Brown.
This is not just low-cost copays at Walgreens.
I can actually help you set up 90-day refills if you want.
This is having a partner you can trust. Get low-cost copays, 90-day refills, and delivery from your neighborhood Walgreens. This is being independent. Together. Walgreens.
Restrictions apply. For details, see walgreens.com/pharmacy.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional grade supplies for every industry, even hard to find products. And we have same day pickup and next day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com.
Past 2 years because he had relatively little competition either year. This year, that's all changed. We had lots of competition in the portal. Lots of competition in the portal the last 2 years. It's not disingenuous at all to talk about the success of the portal and what Mike Norvell has done in it. I've, along with that part of the conversation, noted that it would be difficult to get that right year in and year out, that you couldn't probably live on that over time it would get tougher and tougher and tougher, partly because other people would begin to figure it out, but also because there are certain positions that I think players are more readily available. Elite level players are more readily available than others. You're not, to me, I think it's been fairly obvious. It is hard to find the best of the best on the offensive line in the portal. You know, that you can find, you know, the players that go into the portal are ranked, and you'll see like, well, this guy's the top ranked guard or tackle in the portal. But you'll notice a lot of times those guys are like Jeremiah Byers, Tom, that, Byers was the number 1 ranked guy in the portal at the position, but he was from UTEP. I mean, you're not now, Braden Fisk was at Western Michigan. I get it. And turned out you hit a home run there on the defensive line, but it is awfully difficult to find a kid that is, we talk about the clay, right? The elite clay, the molding of the best players. These offensive lines you see at Georgia and Alabama and Michigan, wherever, a lot of those guys were straight out of high school. They weren't portal guys that came over from UTEP.
Yeah, by definition, if you're a program like an Alabama or a Georgia, you're going to need the portal less, but it doesn't mean you don't need it at all. Georgia obviously has dipped into it a bunch this offseason, and they made waves for doing that. Alabama, one of the recent high-profile transfers they got was Jahmyr Gibbs, from Georgia Tech. So it's not like these programs don't ever go in there, and some of them more than others. Dabo is the least of everybody going into the portal. But I think what's going to be interesting every year is that there's going to be an oscillation between the high school ranks and the portal itself in terms of what is the better market in a given year for value. Like, is this a thin year in the high school ranks for offensive line play? That's happened in the last 3 cycles where there was a year where there hasn't been a whole lot of high school talent on the offensive line. All right, well, that year it's going to be more expensive to go get an offensive lineman in the portal than it is in the high school ranks. And that could happen at any position group each year. That's one of the advanced scouting things of the $9 million that have been added to the plate of somebody like a Derek Ray or anybody you want to name across the country as like the head of the operation in terms of scouting. Where do we go? How do we compose our roster? Mm-hmm. Like every year you're going to have to look at what the competition is going to see. It's almost like an NFL draft or an NBA draft question. Well, there are a lot of point guards coming out this year. So I'm going to go back to college. I'm going to go make some money in the NIL for a season because next year's point guard class is going to be pretty thin. So I will make more money for myself then. You're going to have to think just like that when you're a general manager of a college football program, when you're saying, all right, those 25 O-linemen are great. Let's grab 3 of them. The 26 offensive linemen are thin. Let's prepare to go hit the portal in 26 for immediate help. But it's those kinds of things that have to happen at every position group every year.
Yeah, and I think you can always fill holes with the portal. Every team's going to do that. Alabama's done it. Georgia's done it as well. And, you think that's not something that's never not going to be true as long as the portal exists as it does and the transfer rules are as they are. You're going to have these great opportunities. Few and far between, though, will you find the creme de la creme in talent, in those spots. I think most of those are still going to come from the high school ranks. If you need a year rental to bridge a gap from one kid to another, or you have a massive, influx of injuries, unfortunately, or something like that, you might have to do it and to kind of make it happen. I understand that part of it. This was a top 10 class they just signed. Should have been a little bit better. It was set up to be a little bit better. They missed out on a couple late, and that's disappointing. They got to stockpile that. They got to stockpile that. And that's how you get to that place where, okay, now we're just filling these holes with portal guys. Right now, this is too much of a necessity for Florida State. This is now you're finding starter in the portal. I don't want to be at that place. I want to get to, and it's fine that he has to, that he had to do it doesn't bother me. That he did do it successfully allows me to celebrate a 13-0 season because he understood the task at hand and the need to do so expeditiously. That's important. I'm glad. But from here, we kind of look at it a little bit differently. We also know it's not sustainable.
Yeah, I agree. I think so. This year's recruiting class stopped the bleeding. We thought it was going to stop the bleeding and heal the wound like in one fell swoop. But I think it did. Offensive line-wise, they've recruited okay. Like they had a really big haul 2 years ago. I think Simmons and Otto are 2 nice players, and then they had a decent haul again this year on the offensive line. So I don't think that that's as critical of a thing as looking at the front 7 defensively. But if you're looking at the last few years' worth of classes, Blake Nicholson is a nice player. KJ Sampson is a nice player. Beyond that, you got real problems. And to your point, where you might be able to find an edge rusher from Albany once in a great while, or maybe there's a
first-round pick, sure.
Maybe there's a cast-off from Georgia because they've got too many of them, and he'll be able to plug them and play them right there in the rotation, along with a guy from South Carolina. And you might be able to do that once every 2 or 3 cycles. But defensive interior, I don't know that you can live and die on that. Offensive tackle, you can't live and die on that. So, these are the challenges. The thing is, I think Florida State has gotten to a place where we are a top 10 program, and there should be top 10 expectations. Like, say, out of every 3 seasons, you should be a top 10 team in the playoff 2 out of every 3. I think that's where we have gotten from this year. But in order to get to that top 5 level, that top 3 level, there's just a little bit more tweaking that needs to be done. Linebackers, the obvious one, and then trench play, they could be better specifically on the defensive line. And then the offensive line, I think they've been above average, but nothing like gangbusters.
Got to recruit at a higher level is what we're getting at. There are coaches who do a very good job of it and others who are doing not as good a job that is necessary. And it's a perfect match. It's always a mix and match. You're going to have guys that are great teachers, guys that are really relatable, great coaches, X's and O guys, and guys that can just recruit their ass off. And I feel like we're lacking in that last category. I feel like there's not enough guys that can really just recruit their ass off. Mississippi sophomore running back Sean Judkins is entered the portal. And in 2 seasons there with Lane Kiffin, he was good. SEC Freshman of the Year in 2022, a season high 1,567 yards and 16 touchdowns, 5'11", 210. You want him?
I mean, if that's going to take $1 away from a trench player, no. That's where we are. I think we'll be okay in the skill position realm. I just multi-year trench playing transfers. That's where I would, and linebackers. That would be where I would spend the coin. Of course, I want him is the answer. How unlimited are the purse strings right now for this particular cycle?
Well, since we're solving the future with our friends at ISF, I'm going to go ahead and do it here. Alabama linebacker Chris Braswell heading to the NFL draft. Not what you want. He joined fellow linebacker Dallas Turner and offensive tackle J.C. Latham in announcing plans to leave the Crimson Tide. That's a bummer, but the position is what you want. So, Tom, what I'm going to do to solve the future is throw my hat in the ring if I'm Florida State for every single linebacker in the portal. And I'm going to do so and lure them by telling people Randy Shannon will not be their coach. And there it is. That combination will get us at least one good linebacker. There you go. Now, that's fanciful and a bit tongue-in-cheek and perhaps cruel in the minds of some. But I'm doing something to shake it up, baby.
Sometimes solving the future is making a change. That's what you're saying. It's not about optimizing, which is what ISF can do. It can optimize your performance.
That's correct.
It's not about coordination. It's what ISF can do. It can coordinate your performance and coordinate your solutions.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just about changing the pieces. You know what? This puzzle ain't working. So I'm going to put it in the box. I'm going to open up another puzzle. I'm going to put some pieces together, and these are brand new pieces. And that's what you're saying.
I'm saying sometimes you don't have to continue to collaborate with somebody when the vision is not working out the way that you had planned. So it's time to shake it up. ISF collaborates with all kinds and does a very good job of making it work and seeing that vision through. The problem I have when it comes to vision is I don't see it. I don't see it from Randy. Where's the vision, Randy? Where are the players? Where's the development? Where are the guys? Where are they? They ain't Omar Graham. Where are they? Let's go. I want to see some people. I can't continue to collaborate. There's nothing to collaborate with. We don't have anybody. That's not how you're going to solve the future, Tom. It's not. Our friends at ISF.com are better at it.
You don't want to convert, by way of perhaps using some tools like ISF has in the past to say that maybe a running back, you can convert him to play linebacker. It's not as simple as using the old PS4 controller.
I had to convert one of our tight ends. I did this on my own by lobbying for it to happen for the better part of a year and a half, and it did work. Clearly, Norvell heard me and said, yeah, you're right. Randy doesn't seem to be doing anything with these linebackers. The problem is that we took the kid from tight end and put him at linebacker, but then we expected Randy to develop him well. We're just standing in place.
Well, we'll go to solo cam on that one.
It's the Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Local news now.
Deputies with the Thomas County Sheriff's Office have arrested a man in connection to an assault. On December 31st, deputies went to the Archbold Memorial Hospital in Thomasville, where a woman told deputies that she had been tied up, physically assaulted, and tortured by Jonathan Bryant for about 12 hours before reporting to the hospital for severe injuries. Bryant was taken into custody after officials searched for him for 2 days. Due to night temperatures potentially dropping below 35 degrees again tonight, the Kearney Center will once again be open overnight as a cold weather shelter. The sheltering, located at 2650 Municipal Way, will be available from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. for intake and leave at 7 a.m. the following morning. For those in need of transportation, the City of Tallahassee Star Metro bus service will be available. For more information or to request transportation, call the BBCOC at 850-792-5015. This is Rachel Lene with your Real Talk 93.3 local news update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at MacklemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. Highs level off around 59 this afternoon. Under sunny skies, winds out of the north, 8 to 15 miles per hour. Lows dip down to about 37 tonight. A blend of clouds and sun tomorrow, 66. Daytime highs approaching 71 Saturday with a chance of thunderstorms. 61, cloudy skies expected Sunday. This report is brought to you by the Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Currently 58.
Hey, no fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state process and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future. So everybody knows, Eddie, that you are a spectacular cook. Of course they know that. If they go into Bumpa's, the food is always good. I mean, everything on the menu. Everything at Gordo's is delicious. I always, of course, get the bungalow chungla, as I call it.
The pan con lechon, Jeff.
Is that what is the pork?
The pan con lechon, Jeff.
Okay, the bungalow chungla. It's delicious. All these things, all the items, everything you do, a master cook. But, sir, I would ask you, what is a skill that you possess that you're particularly proud of, that nobody would know, and that you could share with us here?
Growing hair, Jeff. Growing hair.
You're an asshole. Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com now.
Sorry about that, Captain 850. I'm going to make sure I hit this question before I forget to do so. I will. I'll get to prattling on about something and forget all about the super chat or where I was going. And that question is, when does our schedule typically get finalized? Well, the 2024 schedule is already finalized, Tom.
The opponents are, but the sequence is not.
Yeah, the sequence is not, but the opponents. I thought he was just talking about who's on it, but that's long been decided.
So the last year we had a scheduled reaction show. I looked this up on January the 30th. So the ACC got wise last year and made a night of it. And then we go live on Warchant to react to what we see in terms of the sequencing. We know a lot of the games already. Next year, you know that we're playing, obviously, in Dublin to start the season. The Memphis date is locked in September. The Notre Dame game is locked. Florida's locked. And then the week before Florida as well. So there are 7 games and how we sequence them and 2 bye weeks because we do start in August. So there's 9 slates or 9 Saturdays that we got to figure out. Be the end of the month that we know.
And that is always exciting because it's our first opportunity to do W's and L's, Tom. And we love doing W's and L's. I do W's and L's for 2 and 3 years out. I mean, you and I have looked at the FSU football. Now, this time it's more difficult to do it because we may not be in this conference. So when you're looking at 2025, 2026, it's a little bit dicey. But you're right, the order of these games, and you talk about what's already locked in, August 24th in Ireland, Aviva Stadium. I've been there, stood in the center of that stadium. It's a cool locale, going to be a lot of fun to go over to Dublin. You and I already have many things in the work, Tom, including a broadcast place, a pub, an area where we're going to be doing the show and getting together and having a good time. But, all right, you want to do a little W's and L's, buddy, for 2024 with again, Saturday, November 9th, Notre Dame, Saturday, September 14th, Memphis, Saturday, November 23rd, Charleston Southern, November 30th, University of Florida. The rest is up in the air. A bunch of TBAs with Duke, BC, Cal, Clemson, SMU, Miami, and North Carolina.
I mean, we'll have to throw music on it after the segment because we are in two different locations, but we could, if you just want to go down the line and drop a cold W or L next to each team's name.
You know, by the way, I do want to admit, I can't wait to take it to Gerald J. Ford Stadium in Dallas, Texas. Boy, is that going to be a lot of fun. I like going to Dallas, and we get to hit the Gerald J. Ford, and it's going to be a big time. Ford was one of our most boring presidents of all time. It is not going to be boring, however, when we hit Dallas.
I think that's an opponent with more than a puncher's chance in SMU, right? They got some things rolling over there.
We're going to beat SMU's ass, Tom, and we are going to have a good time in Dallas-Fort Worth, buddy. What a time we're going to have. The last time we were in Dallas, we had a blast. I was grilling. We were drinking all-day IPA, and those were tasty. They were going down like water.
That would be 10 years ago, September. 10 years ago.
This is before we knew Tyreek Hill routinely beat his pregnant girlfriend and broke his son's arm. This is before we knew what a piece of garbage he was. That was that long ago. Can you believe it?
10 years ago that Florida State wore the helmets that were so lightly gold, they might have matched the white jerseys.
And they were also fat. They were weirdly fat. Nobody's ever talked about that. Those were fat helmets. They were not the right size helmets. In addition to being an odd gold and kind of just awkward looking, they were also like oblong and stupid. They were fat.
That is lost in the shuffle as one of Jameis' most impressive plays is the run for the touchdown where he may have fumbled before he got in. But
he did not. He did not.
That run, the jump cut, all of those moves he pulled off, he hurdled a dude who was on the ground. Those are really, really good play. And that first half was awesome, but that game mirrored, actually it was the inverse, I should say, of what was most of that season, which was usually bad first halves and then a rally. That was a pretty good start, and then you're kind of holding on for dear life at the end.
That's right. It was ridiculous. We were very angry. It was a sign of things to come. We were very, very frustrated after that game. And I remember walking out of the stadium feeling very good, but also being kind of concerned. I just circled the SMU game. It's a fun one to go to in Dallas. And then, unfortunately, Cal is here. I was really looking forward to going there. I've been to that stadium, actually. I ran down that field of the Cal Golden Bears. But that'll be another win for us. By the way, do you remember all those moons ago this year that Auburn and Cal had the war to start the season? What a game that was. It was a 3-point affair, like 13-10.
I do not remember that game.
Yeah, it was a late night game, buddy. That's what Auburn fans knew. It was a rebuild. They had a lot to do. They had a lot to go.
What they knew is that they were capable of being within a miracle of beating Alabama as bad as they are this year.
The wrong end of a miracle, I guess you would say, is it was a nightmare for them. It was not a miracle. That's brutal. Yeah, I do. The games, the roadies that I'm excited about. Obviously, Notre Dame. You can't wait to arrive at that dump of a town with me, and we'll enjoy it.
I guess we're going. We'll have to get
We're going.
Who wants to sponsor that trip and come ride with us? That would be the way to do it.
Well, I don't know that anybody needs to ride with us. They can sponsor from afar. Saturday, Saturday, November the 9th. That'll be fun. Nice chilly weather at Notre Dame. We arrive in South Bend, tell everybody what a dump of a town this is. We have a good time. This time around, we win the game. It's going to be good. I wish the Memphis game were at Memphis. You got Oh, how much fun would that be? I'd love it. I've been to Memphis. I like Memphis. I'm ready to go to Memphis now. I'd be everywhere this year. I'd be at Aviva Stadium in Ireland. I'd be in Memphis if we were going to Memphis, but we're not. It's here. I'd be obviously at Notre Dame. I would be in Dallas without question. And probably not. Well, I may end up at the Hard Rock just to hang out with Marvin Jones.
I think you'll go down for this one because the Orange Bowl did not move you. And I think some of your friends in South Florida, namely the owner of Los Tacos, would disown you if you didn't make the trip.
If I didn't make it 2 years, Jeff Stalker's going to be waiting for him in that Chicago. No, I can meet her in Dallas. Remember? She was from Dallas.
Oh, whoa. How do you remember that so clearly?
He told me she was from Dallas. She was a scientist from Dallas.
I have a lot of conversations with people that I forget very easily, man.
I just remember I thought it was crazy that she was a scientist in Dallas, and I thought that was a unique thing. It stuck with me.
Apparently it did.
And it was fun. Yeah, she was. I don't know her name or her number, Tom. I'll never be able to track her down. Maybe she listens from afar. She's waiting to find me at a random bar in Dallas.
She'll find you at Gerald J. Ford Stadium, and she'll say, Section 35, hello.
She's going to be like, where you been, stranger? I brought you a beer. Hey, the lady from Dallas that's a scientist. How are you? Oh, man. I don't know. That schedule, we won't do W's and L's in the 1 minute that remains in the show. It's not the right thing to do, but I am a schedule guy, and I will sit and look at like 2026, 2026. Hey, you want to know what we have in 2026? But now it's all changed because we don't know where we're going to be in 2026, so it's impossible. By the way, 2026, we're supposed to play at Alabama, just so you know. Good work out of you, sir. Go enjoy the rest of your day. Matthew, good work out of you. Be well, everybody.